let's finish up our work on the legs. So what we'll need to do is first clean up each F-curve that we've animated in, and it won't take much time at all. Just want to make sure that the movement is very fluid. And then we can finish by making sure that the legs move correctly in the front view. We also need to make sure that the feet are oriented properly as well. You can see they're pointed straight forward, and that's very unnatural. So those are some things we need to do to finish up. And this won't take much time at all. So let's go ahead and get started by working on the right foot. We'll go ahead and grab our curve editor. So we're just working on the tracks that we've animated thus far. Let's go to our position Y. So you can see that we have several keys here that we can clean up. We also have some tangents we can adjust. I'll go to frame 1 and drag that out tangent down. You can see how it starts to adjust our trajectory. Now from 4 all the way to about 10, we can actually get rid of all of those keys to kind of clean things up to fix the flow here. So I'll go ahead and just delete those. Again, from 4 to 10. You can see how we need to adjust the arc a bit, but that's not a problem at all. We could always tweak one of our existing tangents. So I'll go ahead and grab the key on 3 and drag that tangent up and out, and instantly it's adjusted the function curve for us to give us a better flow. All right. So that's ideal, optimizing our function curve while still getting great results. We don't have a clutter to deal with now. Let's go ahead and move to our next track. It's the position Z, the up and down axis. Clearly we can get rid of this keyframe on 3, so I'll go ahead and highlight it and delete it. Great. We need to make sure that we have a good feeling of weight when the foot plants. So from about 6 to about 11, you can see we have a few keys in between that we can clean up. We'll get rid of these in-betweens on 8 and 10. And now let's go ahead and select the keyframe on 11. We're going to go ahead and set the tangent to spline. And we'll also go ahead and break the tangent. Again, we can just hold down shift and just drag this up. And that will make sure that we have a good feeling of weight when that foot plants. Perfect. All right, so let's scrub through. You can see how the leg locks up a bit on 2 because of the adjustments we have been making. But this is, again, very simple to tweak. We could actually tweak this a few ways. We can create a keyframe. We can use our toe control to rotate the foot up and fix the locking that we're experiencing that way. So it's whatever you'd prefer. It'd probably be best to adjust the toe instead of creating a keyframe that lifts this foot up a bit more, because we want to make sure that the foot is planted at this point. So that's what we'll do. We'll go ahead and grab our toe roll control, and let's go to frame 3 just to make sure that our pose is going to be locked here so that there's no rotation on this control when we get to this frame. But on 2, this is where we'll want to just go ahead and rotate the foot up a bit more to create that bend in the leg. Again, so it looks like it's locked, but we know that there's a slight bend there to prevent IK locking. So we know that we're going to experience that on the opposite leg. To prepare for that, we can go ahead and grab our toe control. We'll go to frame 8. We'll lock down a pose here. We'll lock down a pose on frame 10. And now when we get to frame 9, we can simply go in and add the in-between we'll need to fix the locking we'll experience. All right, great. So I'm going to go back to the right foot just to check and make sure that there was nothing else to tweak. Looks like we can adjust our rotation x-axis. So let's take a look. We might be able to get rid of this keyframe on 8. Let's go ahead and delete that. Go to frame 8. You can see it causes the foot to point down a bit, but no worries. We can adjust this easily by fixing the tangent on 11. So that key selected, we'll choose set to spline. We'll hold down control and drag this out to bring the foot up a bit more. Now I'd also like to point out to you interactive update under the view menu. With that on, we can start to see the change that we create on the fly. So we might want to work with that. All right, great. So that's looking much better. And the other two rotation tracks, we won't adjust just yet. We'll worry about that when we're ready to work on the front view. But we can call the right leg good for now, and let's move to the left and do the same thing. So we'll go to the y-axis. We'll do a little bit of cleanup work by getting rid of the keys on 11 and 13. Goodbye. All right, from there, we'll go ahead and start to adjust our tangency a bit more. We can take the key on frame 15. We can go ahead and drag the tangent down here. We can go to the key on 1 and bring up the out tangent. And then get rid of this key on 3 to smooth this out a bit more. Let's now go to the key on 8 and slide the tangent down. We'll grab the key on frame 10 and adjust our tangency to fix the arc a bit more for fluidity. Great. All right, let's now move to the z-axis. All right, so here, let's get rid of this keyframe on 10. Excellent. We'll also get rid of this in-between key on 3. From there, we'll adjust our tangents on 15, as well as on frame 1. Now remember, we need a good sense of weight, so let's go ahead and grab the keyframe on 4, and let's go ahead and again set it to spline. We can break our tangency and drag up the intangent for weight. You can see as we do that, we'll need to adjust the keys on 1 and 15 to fix the fluidity here. Right now we're getting a bit of a break in the F curve, so I'll just go ahead and select both keys, hold down Control, and drag them up a bit more to fix that. Great. And if we need to, we could always go in and adjust our tangency a bit more. Alrighty. I think we are good to go. Alright, so that looks good. Let's go ahead and move to the rotation X. And this, again, won't require much work. So what we could do here is take a look at this key on 13. I bet we don't need it. Let's go ahead and delete that one. We'll go ahead and start to adjust our tangency. So let's grab the key on 15, drag that down, and that's going to fix the orientation on 13. Great. And we'll also adjust our tangency on 1. Great. Now remember, we were running into that locking issue on frame 9, as we expected. So let's go ahead and take the value then from the right foot and transfer that over to our toe control on the left. So we'll go to the right foot, head over to frame 2. You can see that that value is at about -5, so we can always copy that. Go to frame 9, select the left toe control, and paste that value in the x-axis. No longer do we have that locking issue. If we were to play this back, you can notice clearly that the legs are much more fluid. All right, let's go ahead and finish up. We only have a few things to do. We need to make sure that the legs move in closer to the body when the legs move back, and then as they move forward, they need to move slightly away from the body, and then once they plant, we need to make sure they're centered. All right, so this is going to be done in the position x-axis. So instead of going in and posing this, we could always just go ahead and use the keys we already have in our curve editor. Let's go ahead and find the position X. This is going to happen on frame 4 where the leg moves in. So I'll go ahead and select the keyframe here on 4. We'll hold down Control and start to drag this down. I might also adjust the curve editor so we can just focus on the legs, making sure that we don't move this key too far. All right, beautiful. So now when we move to frame 10, we can go ahead and take this key and move it up slightly. So again, hold down Control and just drag this up a bit more. Now when the foot plants on 12, we need to take this key on 11 and move that over to 12 because that's where the foot should straighten out. So go ahead and simply select the key and type in that value of 12 in the frame field. We have these keys here on 6 and on 8 that we can get rid of to clean things up a bit, fix the flow. All right, excellent. So I'll go ahead and scrub through and take a look. We also have a key right here on 3 that we can remove. Beautiful. Alright, so we have fixed the arcing motion of the right leg, its position that is. So we can go ahead and do the same thing for the opposite leg by using the values we're working with here. So I'll go ahead and highlight the keyframe and take a look. It's at about a value of -5. So I'll go ahead and copy that. And since this was on 4, on the left leg, we'll need to transfer this to frame 11. So let's go ahead and grab the left leg. We'll head over to frame 11. Let's grab the position X, select the keyframe, paste our value in, and we'll work with the reciprocal. So that's going to be +5 to bring the leg in. All right, great. Let's go back to the right leg. Go ahead and find the pose on frame 10. Let's go ahead and copy that value, which is at about 4. That's close enough to 4 to round this value out. So I'll go ahead and set that to 4. So we now know what value to use. Let's go back to the left leg. And instead of frame 10, we know we need to transfer this to 3. So let's go ahead and highlight that keyframe and put in a value of -4 to move it out. All right. So now what we can do is go ahead and work on everything else here by going to frame 5, making sure this key on 4 is brought over to 5. Great. So now the foot is centered. And just taking a look at this on frame 8, we need that key there, but on frame 10, we can go ahead and get rid of this key to fix the fluidity here, fix the arc. We could also get rid of the key on frame 13 to fix the fluidity. And now we can adjust our tangency on 15 as well as on 1 to smooth out the arc a bit more. All right, great. So the last thing we need to do is adjust the orientation of the feet. So this is actually pretty simple to do. Let's go ahead and start on the right side. What we'll do first is adjust the Z-axis. That's going to be the simplest. We'll go to the Z. We'll select all of the keys in between and delete them. They're not needed. All we need to do here is go ahead and highlight our keyframes and make sure that the foot is pointed out slightly away from the body for a more natural pose. We can hold down Control and drag our keyframes up just slightly to fix that. So I've brought it to about a value of 7, and we could always round that out. So that means on the left side, we can go there, select our rotation Z track, go ahead and again delete all of our in-between keys, put in a value of -7, and that should, actually that's going to cause them to move in the wrong direction, so I'll go ahead and use that value of +7. There we go. Much better. All right, now for the Y-axis. All we need to do here is make sure that the foot, for one, rotates in towards the body just a few frames after our position X key. So on frame 6, just to add some fluidity here, we can go ahead and rotate the foot in. I'll go to the rotate Y. Take a look. We already have a key we can work with. So let's start to go ahead and just drag this key down. Great. I'll go ahead and bring this down just a little bit more, not too much, to about a value of -13. I think that's going to work out well. And now when we move forward, we need to make sure that the foot straightens up a bit at about frame 8, and that's exactly what we get. Now when the foot plants, when we reach the point where the heel touches, this is where we want to roll the foot out again. So we'll now go ahead and take this key on 11, and we're actually going to go ahead and drag it out again. All right, perfect. When the foot plants, one frame after on 12, we're going to need a keyframe of 0 here. All right, so that's very simple to tweak. We'll just go to our Y-axis and put in that value of 0. Excellent. So now just scrubbing through the rest of the animation to make sure it's correct, you can see on frame 4, we can most certainly delete that keyframe to fix the fluidity here. And now that we have the values we need, we can always transfer that to the opposite leg. Now, for simplicity, we can go ahead and make sure that the keyframes on 6 and 11 match because they're close enough. So this keyframe on 11, I'm going to go ahead and set to -13 to be matched with the key on 6. And now we can go ahead and transfer this over to the opposite foot to finish up here. So let's go to our Y-axis. And instead of 6, we need to work with frame 13. So you can see it's actually the same values we're using here. So I'm going to go ahead and take this keyframe on 13 and set that to -13. Great. So the next frame, just want to make sure that we get this correct, the next frame that we need to adjust was on 11, so that means we need to do the same thing on frame 4. So let's go ahead and move back to the left leg, grab this key on 4, and set that to -13 as well. Alrighty. So scrubbing through, just making sure that the foot plants at the right time. We can go ahead and move over to frame 5 and make sure we transfer this value on 8 over to 5. So I'll go ahead and do that. Now the foot plants, perfect. Go ahead and scrub through. You can see here, now the foot's going to lift up. And when that happens, we need to have it start rotating in this axis. So take a look, we already have a key we can work with on 11. So let's transfer 11 to frame 10. Let's go ahead and take a look. Actually, we'd probably want to bring it to frame 8, since that's the end of the plant position of the foot. So I'm going to take this key and actually bring that over to 8. Perfect. All right, and we are good to go with the feet. We can now close out our curve editor. Feel free to turn off trajectories and play this back. Beautiful stuff. All right, so we have now animated the legs. We've finished them up. They're looking nice and polished. And what that means is that we're ready to now start moving up the body here and kind of finishing the other areas that we'll need to tweak. So the next section we'll work on finishing up is the upper body here by adjusting the center of gravity a bit more.